Welcome, everyone. Today, you're about to witness one of the most powerful, unbelievable, and life-changing stories of our time. A story that didn't begin in a billion-dollar office but inside a small garage. With two college students, no money, no experience, and a dream so big, even the world wasn't ready for it. This is not just the story of a company. This is the story of how two unknown students created something that transformed every second of your life. From how you search, how you learn, how you work, and even how you dream. Today, we can't imagine a day without typing something into Google. But have you ever wondered how it all began? Who were the minds behind it? How did they go from two students building a weird search engine to running one of the most powerful empires the world has ever seen? This is not a fairy tale. This is a real story of pain, rejection, obsession, and an unstoppable dream. This story is filled with moments that will make you emotional. Moments that will make you want to fight for your own dreams harder than ever. And moments that will prove that you don't need to be born rich, popular, or lucky. You just need a crazy vision and relentless action. So sit back, take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear is not just a tech story, it's a human story. A story that proves impossible is nothing. This is the mind-blowing journey of Google. From a Stanford dorm room to a garage to controlling nearly every corner of the internet. And changing the way we live forever. Part 1. Two nerds, one dream. The birth of an idea. Before the word Google even existed. Before the internet became a part of your daily life. Two young students were sitting in their university dorm rooms, obsessed with a question that no one else seemed to care about. How can we organize all the information in the world and make it useful? Let's rewind to 1995 at Stanford University, California. This is where two very different individuals met for the first time, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Larry Page was not an ordinary student. He was the son of two computer science professors. He grew up in Michigan, surrounded by computers, printers, and piles of tech magazines. He wasn't interested in parties. He wasn't interested in sports. His brain was wired differently. He wanted to understand systems, solve big problems, and think far beyond the average mind. Larry was quiet, curious, and always thinking about how things work. And even from a young age, he believed information could change the world. If only we could organize it properly. Sergey Brin was born in Moscow, Russia, and moved to the United States when he was just 6 years old. His family escaped communist oppression so they could live in a free country. His father was a mathematician. His mother was a NASA scientist. From a very young age, Sergey was surrounded by logic, discipline, and high expectations. But Sergey had a rebellious mind. He wasn't afraid to challenge ideas or speak up. He was sharp, witty, bold, and full of energy. So when Larry met Sergey at Stanford, they didn't like each other at first. Yes, that's the truth. They argued in almost every conversation. Different personalities, different styles, but the same curiosity. Both of them were obsessed with the power of information. Back in the 90s, the internet was growing fast, but it was chaotic. There were websites, but no good way to find the right one. You'd type something and get 100 useless results. Search engines like Alta Vista, Lycos, and Yahoo existed, but they were not accurate. They didn't understand which page was actually the best. Larry started wondering, what if we could rank pages based on how many other pages linked to them? Like a vote system. If more sites point to one site, maybe that one is important. It was a brilliant idea, but no one saw it yet. Larry called his idea Back Rub. It was named this because it analyzed backlinks on the web. He discussed it with Sergey. Sergey, being the genius with mathematics, saw the potential instantly. They teamed up, and that's when something powerful began. 2 students, 1 idea, 1 goal. Organize the world's information and make it accessible and useful. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to change the world forever. They started writing code in their dorm rooms. Day and night. Sometimes 20 hours straight. They used cheap parts to build their first servers. They borrowed old computers, stacked them in towers, and ran tests every day. They weren't thinking about becoming billionaires. They weren't even thinking about building a company. They just wanted to create something that actually worked. They were solving a real problem, and they believed the world needed it. Eventually, they realized the name Back Rub didn't sound right. They needed something that would represent huge amounts of data. So they chose the word Google, a play on the number Google, which is a 1 followed by 100 zeros. It was fun, it was unique, and it represented their mission to handle endless amounts of information. And just like that, Google was born, but no one was interested. Not yet. They pitched it to Yahoo, to Excite, to tech investors. Everyone rejected them. Some laughed. Some said, search is not a business. Why waste your time? Some said, this will never work. You're just students. Larry and Sergey were crushed. But they didn't stop, because the fire inside them was bigger than the noise around them. They believed in their idea more than the world doubted it. And that belief, that obsession, is what gave birth to the greatest tech empire in history. Part 2. Built in a garage, rejected by giants. But they never gave up. Larry Page and Sergey Brin had created something revolutionary. Google, a search engine that could actually understand which websites were valuable. But here's the truth. Most people don't know. Having a great product is not enough. If no one believes in you, no one funds you, and no one gives you a chance, you are just a genius with an idea collecting dust. That's exactly what happened. They had a working product, but no money, no company, no office, no employees, and worse, they had no one who believed in them. So now began the real war. The war of convincing people to give them a shot. Larry and Sergey started doing everything they could to raise money. They pitched Google to Yahoo. Yahoo said, "We're not interested in search right now. People don't want to find things. They want to stay on our homepage longer." Translation: Yahoo wanted to distract users, not help them leave quickly by giving fast answers. They didn't understand that fast, clean search was the future. Rejected. Then they went to Excite, another popular company at that time. Excite's CEO looked at Google and admitted, "Yes, it's good. Yes, it's better than what we have. But still," he said no. Rejected again. Over and over, they kept hearing the same answers. Search engines don't make money. You can't build a business on that. You're just 2 students. What do you know about business? They weren't just rejected. They were ignored, disrespected, underestimated. Every door was closed. But they didn't stop. Because when the world slams the door on your face, you have 2 choices: cry and quit, or build your own door and walk through it. They chose the second one. In 1998, something unexpected happened. One man, Andy Bechtolsheim, the co-founder of Sun Microsystems, agreed to meet Larry and Sergey early in the morning. They showed him a demo of Google on the Stanford campus, outside, on a picnic table. He didn't ask for a fancy business plan. He didn't wait for perfection. He saw the demo and said just one thing. "I don't need to hear more. This is amazing. Here's a check for $100,000. That single check was the turning point. But here's the funny part. Google didn't even exist as a company yet. They had no business bank account, so they had to rush and register the company. And finally, on September 4th, 1998, they officially launched Google Inc. That check gave them the first push, but it was still just the beginning. Now they had to do the impossible. Build the future of the internet from a garage. They didn't have money for an office, so they rented a garage from their friend Susan Wojcicki in Menlo Park, California. Susan later became the CEO of YouTube. Yes, history was being made in that garage. Inside that small garage, with just a few desks, old furniture, and second-hand servers, they started working day and night. There were no fancy perks, no staff, no security, just obsession and determination. They brought in a few friends as early engineers. They didn't sleep much. They didn't party. They didn't take weekends off, because they weren't just building a company. They were building a mission to change how the world accesses knowledge. As Google started getting attention from tech lovers, more people began using it. The results were better, cleaner, faster, more useful than Yahoo, Lycos, or Ask Jeeves. People loved it. Investors noticed. In 1999, Google raised $25 million from top investors like Kleiner Perkins and Sequoia Capital. With this funding, they moved out of the garage and into a real office. They hired a team. They built faster servers. They kept improving the algorithm, constantly tweaking to make search faster, smarter, and more relevant. And while other tech companies were still trying to be web portals, Google focused on one thing only: search. While everyone else was chasing money, Larry and Sergey were chasing mission. Simple page, massive impact. Google's homepage was different. It was empty. Just a search box. No flashing ads, no news, no distractions. Why? Because they believed one thing. The best design is no design. People come here to find answers. Let's help them. Fast. That user-first mindset became their secret weapon. And soon, Google was exploding in popularity. By 2000, they were processing over 18 million searches per day. By 2001, that number jumped to over 100 million. But here's what made it special. They still didn't run big banner ads. They didn't sell user data. They kept their values clear: speed, simplicity, truthful results, and people trusted them. But every company, no matter how great the mission, needs to make money. So in 2000, Google introduced AdWords, a system that allowed businesses to show small text ads related to what people were searching. If you searched "buy shoes," you'd see a small ad for a shoe store. Nothing annoying. And the genius part? Advertisers only paid when someone clicked the ad. This changed everything. It was fair, efficient, and scalable. Google was now printing money, but without annoying its users. They had cracked the code. Help the user plus help businesses equals help the world. AdWords made Google profitable, then unstoppable. And they still weren't done. By 2002, Google had indexed over 3 billion web pages. By 2003, They had offices in multiple countries. In 2004, they launched Gmail, a free email service with 1 gigabyte of space. Everyone else was offering just 2 to 4 megabytes. It shocked the world. Later, they launched Google Maps, Google News, and Google Images. They were turning into an ecosystem of tools, all free, all fast, all better. On August 19, 2004, Google went public on the stock market. Its shares opened at $85. Today, those shares are worth hundreds of billions. Larry and Sergey became billionaires. But more importantly, they proved that purpose can build power. Part 3. Global Expansion, Ruthless Innovation. How Google Took Over the World. By 2004, Google had already changed the rules of the internet. They weren't just a company, they were a movement. People trusted them, investors wanted them, and their mission, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible, was finally becoming real. But here's what most people don't understand. The world doesn't stay quiet when you succeed. The bigger you get, the more people try to stop you. And Google's next phase wasn't peaceful. It was a battlefield, full of threats, takeovers, and bold moves. Let's begin. The moment Google became big, it threatened the tech titans of the time. Microsoft, which ruled computers with Windows and search with MSN. Yahoo, which once rejected Google, now felt the heat. Apple, a rising force in hardware, would soon enter the fight. Google was surrounded by powerful companies with massive money, lawyers, and deep control over software and devices. But Larry and Sergey had one thing none of them had: the hunger to keep evolving, no matter how big they became. Even after their IPO, they made a rule inside the company: don't become slow. They encouraged employees to use 20% of their work time to chase their own creative ideas. This 20% rule gave birth to Gmail, the fastest, smartest email tool. Google News, news articles sorted automatically. Google Books, scanning and saving the world's knowledge. Google Images. After people searched Jennifer Lopez's dress at the 2000 Grammys, they weren't waiting for problems. They were chasing the future. And the world started noticing. By the late 2000s, one thing was clear. The future wasn't on desktop. It was in your pocket. People were shifting from computers to mobile phones. And at that time, Apple had launched the iPhone, changing everything. Apple was rising fast. If Google didn't move now, they could lose the next war. So what did they do? They quietly bought a small startup called Android Inc. in 2005, led by Andy Rubin. At that time, Android was just an idea. But Larry and Sergey saw the future. Their vision: an open-source mobile operating system that anyone could use, not just one company like Apple. They gave Android everything: resources, talent, freedom. And in 2008, the first Android phone was released, the HTC Dream. It wasn't perfect, but it was free, flexible, and full of potential. Soon, Samsung, Motorola, LG, everyone joined Android. The war with Apple had begun. And over the next decade, Android would dominate over 80% of the world's smartphones. Let's rewind to 2006. Two friends, Steve Chen and Chad Hurley, had created a simple platform where users could upload videos. It was fun, casual, and new. The site? YouTube. It was growing fast, too fast. Google saw this as both a threat and an opportunity. So what did they do? They bought YouTube for $1.65 billion. in less than 2 years after its creation. At the time, people thought Google was crazy, but they weren't. Today, YouTube is the second most visited website in the world, after Google itself. And it's not just entertainment, it's education, business, art, and global culture. Meanwhile, Google didn't stop building. They launched Google Maps, allowing you to explore the world in real time. Google Earth, giving you satellite views of any place on the planet. Google Translate, breaking language barriers. Google Drive, storing your documents in the cloud. Google Docs, replacing Microsoft Word for millions. Chrome, a lightning-fast browser that became #1 in the world. Every tool was faster, cleaner, smarter, free. They weren't just solving problems. They were reprogramming modern life. What about the money? While all these tools were free, Google was still making billions. How? Their main engine. AdWords, now rebranded as Google Ads. Every business wanted to be visible on Google, and Google gave them the power to target the right user at the right time. From small stores to giant corporations, everyone paid Google. And this advertising engine powered all their free tools. It was a perfect system. Help the user. Trust increases. Help the advertiser. Profits increase. Keep the mission pure. Grow forever. Most companies stop when they're successful. But Larry and Sergey built a secretive division called X, also known as the Moonshot Factory. Their goal? Solve the world's hardest problems using radical technologies. Projects from X include self-driving cars, Waymo, internet from high-altitude balloons, Loon, smart contact lenses for measuring glucose, Google Glass, augmented reality glasses. Some failed, some succeeded, but that wasn't the point. Google kept its soul as a search engine, but its brain as a lab. Success always brings responsibility, and Google had its share of criticisms, privacy concerns. Is Google watching us? Accusations of monopoly. Is Google too powerful? Fines from the EU? Billions for breaking antitrust laws. Censorship debates. What should be shown and what should be removed? Employee protests. Ethical concerns about working with governments and military projects. These weren't just technical problems. They were moral battles. And Google had to evolve not just as a company, but as a global citizen. To respond to growing pressure, in 2015, Google restructured itself. They created a new parent company, Alphabet Incorporated. Now Google was just one part of a bigger vision. Under Alphabet were Google, YouTube, Android, Waymo, DeepMind, AI Lab, Calico, Life Extension Research, Verily, Healthcare. Alphabet gave them flexibility, focus, and future readiness. AI, the next revolution. In the last decade, Google made another bold move. Bet everything on artificial intelligence. They acquired DeepMind, one of the world's most advanced AI companies. They launched tools like Google Assistant, Google Lens, BERT, and Gemini, AI language models. Google Translate's neural engine, AI-powered search that understands your intent, not just keywords. Google was no longer just organizing information. Now it was trying to understand it, predict it, and help you think better. Let's pause here. How did this happen? How did two students build an empire that now touches every phone, every email, every map, every search, every language, every video, every document, every digital moment? It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was a combination of vision, not short-term money, but long-term impact. Speed, move fast, break things, fix them better. User-first mindset. Solve real problems, never overcomplicate. Hiring only the best minds, from engineers to designers to dreamers. Continuous risk-taking, never settling, always experimenting. Staying obsessed with learning. Every failure was a data point. Culture of innovation. Even interns could build billion-dollar ideas. Google became more than a company. It became an extension of human intelligence. Part 4. Power, Pressure, and Letting Go. The emotional weight of building Google. After years of innovation, expansion, and global domination, Google was everywhere. You searched something. It was Google. You needed directions. Google. You watched a video. YouTube, owned by Google. You used a smartphone. Chances are it ran on Android, also Google. You typed an email, Gmail. You opened a browser, Chrome. You stored a file, Google Drive. You translated a word, Google Translate. Google had become a second brain for humanity. But here's the truth. The more powerful you become, the more you lose control. And soon, Larry Page and Sergey Brin found themselves running something that was no longer just a project or a business. It was a living ecosystem. It was a part of modern civilization. And with that came difficult questions, impossible decisions, and deep emotional battles. When Google was small, its values were simple. Focus on the user. Build great things. Never be evil. But as it grew, those values were tested again and again. Here are some of the challenges: censorship and free speech. Should Google show results that include hate speech? Should it hide illegal content? What about politically sensitive topics in certain countries? In some nations, governments demanded Google remove results that criticized them. If Google refused, it could be banned in that country. If Google agreed, it could be accused of supporting censorship. There was no easy answer. The very company that once promised to make all knowledge available was now being asked to limit it. And sometimes it did. Privacy concerns. As Google grew, so did its data. Google now knew what people searched, where they were, what they clicked, what they watched, what they bought, what they said to their assistant, and even how long they looked at something. It became the largest collector of human behavior in history. Some people loved it because it made things convenient. Others were terrified. They felt watched, tracked, studied. Critics said, "Google knows more about you than your own family." That's a heavy truth, and it led to lawsuits, public protests, and global debates. Employee revolts and ethical dilemmas. Inside Google, even its employees started to question the direction. Some protested when Google signed contracts with military agencies to help with AI-powered drones. Others protested working with authoritarian governments. Even more protested the way women and minorities were being treated in leadership roles. One of the biggest walkouts in tech history happened at Google, led by thousands of its own employees, not its critics. The company that was once a symbol of freedom and brilliance was now under the microscope, even from within. Now let's talk about the founders. Larry Page and Sergey Brin had started Google because they loved solving problems. They were dreamers, engineers, idealists, not CEOs. But now they were leading an empire with over 100,000 employees, legal battles, media attacks, and global consequences. Larry began avoiding public appearances. He hated speaking at events. He wasn't chasing attention. He just wanted to build. Sergey, too, stayed behind the scenes. He worked on futuristic projects but rarely spoke to the press. Running Google had become exhausting. Not because of the work, but because of the burden of the brand. Google wasn't just Google anymore. It was Android, YouTube, Gmail, Search, AI Maps, Earth, Chrome, Translate, Cloud, Fiber, DeepMind, Waymo, Smart Home, Smart Cities, Health Tech, Life Science, Quantum Computing. It was too much. They realized, we're no longer the best people to run this company. It was one of the hardest, most emotional decisions of their lives. They had built the most powerful technology company on Earth. But now, they had to let it go. On December 3, 2019, Larry Page and Sergey Brin announced they were stepping down from their leadership roles at Alphabet, Google's parent company. They wrote a public letter that said, "We've never been ones to hold on to management roles when we think there's a better way to run the company. And Alphabet and Google no longer need two CEOs and a president." They handed control over to Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, a humble, brilliant Indian-born engineer who had risen through the ranks with honesty, vision, and kindness. Larry and Sergey didn't vanish. They still held board seats. They still had voting power. They were still there in the shadows. But the company now belonged to the next generation. It was emotional. It was quiet. And it was necessary. Because sometimes the greatest power is knowing when to step away. What does Google mean today? Today, Google is not just a website. It's a global research lab, a media company, a hardware maker, a phone system, a cloud platform, an advertising engine, an AI leader, a data collector, a culture shaper, and a tool that billions depend on every single day. It's both loved and feared, trusted and questioned, admired and criticized. But here's what no one can deny. Google changed the way humans interact with knowledge, forever. It made information free, fast, and powerful. It connected the world. It gave small businesses a chance. It gave learners access to answers. It gave creators a platform. It gave dreamers the tools to build. It empowered the entire digital revolution. Let's pause here and be honest. This is not just a story about a tech company. This is a story about what happens when you refuse to stop at ordinary, when you take a problem everyone ignores, and you solve it better than anyone thought possible. When you chase your obsession, even when the world laughs. When you keep your values in focus, even as the world tempts you with shortcuts. When you build for others, not just for money. Larry and Sergey didn't start with millions. They started with questions. They didn't chase fame. They chased truth. And even when they became billionaires, they still wanted to invent, explore, and evolve, not just manage. The world needs dreamers like that. Part 5. Legacy, Impact, and the Truth Behind Google's Global Power. As Larry Page and Sergey Brin stepped back from their leadership roles, a new era had begun. Google was no longer a startup or even a corporation. It was now something else entirely. A digital force that shapes how billions of people think, learn, earn, and live. This part is not about what Google built. It's about what it changed forever. And it's about what this story means for you. Because if we miss that, then we've missed everything. The impact on the world, education, economy, and access. Before Google, knowledge was locked in books, locked in libraries, locked in universities, locked behind money, borders, and power. But Google changed that. It gave every human being a key to unlock knowledge. Instantly. A child in a small village without school can now search anything. A young girl who can't afford college can learn computer science on her phone. A poor entrepreneur with no business degree can watch videos, read blogs, and build something from scratch. Google made information democratic. It flattened the world. And because of that, entire industries were born. The YouTube creator economy, the Google Ads business empire, online courses, websites, e-commerce, influencer marketing, remote jobs, digital freelancers, small businesses ranking in search and growing without physical stores. Today, millions of people earn money online because Google created the systems that made it possible. Google didn't just build products. It built opportunity. The rise of AI. Is Google replacing itself? Ironically, Google's biggest future threat may come from the same thing it helped create: artificial intelligence. As AI tools become smarter, like ChatGPT, Gemini, and others, the way we search for information is changing again. People want answers, not just links. And Google knows this, so Google is now transforming itself. Again, with its AI models like Gemini, Bard, and others, Google is moving toward conversational, predictive, human-like intelligence. They are not just trying to help you search. They are trying to understand you before you even ask. That's the next evolution. But it comes with deep responsibility. Because when a machine knows what you need, it can guide your thoughts, shape your decisions, and influence your beliefs. Google is walking on the edge of a new kind of power. The power to shape minds. And how they handle that power will define the next century. The real cost of building something this big. Behind every great company is a cost most people don't see. Yes, Google brought knowledge to the world. Yes, it made billions of lives better. But it also ended thousands of small newspapers, disrupted industries that couldn't keep up, raised questions about surveillance, privacy, and data ownership, forced societies to ask, what happens when one company becomes a digital god? The founders didn't plan for this. They just wanted to build something useful. But now the world they helped create is far bigger, more complicated, and more fragile than anyone imagined. And this is where we come to you. What this story teaches you, even if you never work in tech. This isn't just a story about Larry Page or Sergey Brin. It's a mirror for anyone who dreams of building something, of doing something impossible, of creating meaning in a world full of noise. Here are the truths this story teaches. You don't need permission to build something great. Larry and Sergey were students. No experience, no money, but they had a problem, a passion, and a plan. That's enough to start. Every no can lead to the biggest yes of your life. Yahoo rejected them. Excite rejected them. Investors laughed, but they kept building. Because the world doesn't believe until you make it undeniable. Focus on the problem, not on the prize. They weren't chasing money. They were obsessed with making search better. When you solve real problems, the world will come to you. Grow fast, but stay honest. Even as they expanded, Google kept asking, what's best for the user? That one question made them different. Build for everyone, not just for yourself. From the beginning, Google's tools were free, accessible, open, global. That generosity built a foundation of trust. And that trust is why Google didn't just become big, it became loved. Let's talk numbers, just to understand the scale. As of now, Alphabet Inc., Google's parent company, is worth over $2.3 trillion. Google makes more than $300 billion in revenue every year. Its ad platform alone earns over $250 billion annually. It has over 190 offices in more than 60 countries. YouTube alone is worth more than $400 billion. Android runs on over 3 billion devices worldwide. Google Search handles over 8.5 billion searches every single day. Let that sink in. Google went from a college dorm dream to a $2.3 trillion empire. And yet, it all started with a single question. How can we make information more useful? One question, one garage, two dreamers, and now, the world. If you've watched this far, this story is now yours. The world today is full of distraction, laziness, fear, and comfort. But Google's journey proves something powerful. You don't need to be rich, famous, connected, or perfect. You just need a mission so powerful that it pulls you forward, even when the world is pushing you down. You need the courage to begin when no one believes in you. You need the discipline to keep building when no one's watching. And you need the humility to step aside when the mission becomes bigger than you. So ask yourself, what are you building? What's your version of Google? It doesn't have to be a company. It could be a book, a movement, a school, a message, a platform, a dream, whatever it is. Start now, because the internet still belongs to the bold. Thank you for watching the complete story of Google. Not just the success, but the struggle, the soul, and the silent battles behind the scenes. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in your own dream just 1% more, then do one thing right now. Subscribe. Because this channel is where real stories come alive. Stories that don't just inform you, but transform you. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and never stop dreaming. May God bless your journey, and may your idea change the world.